Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Etims podcast. My name is Desi, and tonight I'm joined by Hector Bandido. Thank you, Hector, and also all the way from Stoke, the former pilot of the Tarrier Carrier, Ralph Mouth. Thanks very much for joining, lads.
Hello,
as always. So the last time we guys, it was just post the Murrayfield Helsinki game. We were ever so happy. Hector, you'd just been telling us about the wonderful Murrayfield experience with your travel rug over your lap, etc., and you're feeling to get salt and sauce. Now, thankfully, the Commonwealth Games have come and gone. Celtic Park's back looking at its wonderful best. And I'd just like to give a personal tribute to the groundsman at Celtic Park, who never seems to get the praise he deserves. Johnny Hayes, well done. It's a big shout out for us. Well done. But in the meantime, since the Helsinki Murrayfield game to now, it has literally been the Ronnie Roller-coaster. Ralph, did you enjoy the Legia Warsaw debacle? Because you had to write about it in the diary.
Absolutely not. I thought we'd regressed about 5 years, 10 years. It looked like Tony Mowbray was back in charge. And I got the feeling we just got ourselves in a dreamer that just hadn't got a clue what he was doing. He was out of his depth. And I was ready to just drive up there and pick him up and just take him back to Norway.
Let's not go to where we are at the moment for now, but just in respect to the actual Legia Warsaw affair, like watching the games at Legia Warsaw, because I want to touch on this because me and you have been having a bit of a to and fro in respect to giving Ronnie a chance. You seem to go from giving him 2 years to giving him 25 minutes, which just after that first Legia game, where Celtic went 1-up. Everybody seems to forget Celtic were actually leading in that game and then just basically collapsed.
It looked as though he'd come in, taken charge of the team and said, "This is what I'm going to do." He brought Inge Berger.
Well done.
One of the loan signings. He brought him in and he played him straight away. And I just kept harking back in my mind to that Art Media game when the left back that night, I can't even remember who it was. It's that long ago. Or it's been just erased at the memory. That was a game when you go to the toilet, you come back, we'd lost another goal. And it was the same thing. Somebody completely unfamiliar with the players, with the pattern, just thrown in. And I just thought, he can't surely think he's going to get away with this at this level.
Left back or right back? Right back guy. I enjoy it. I like right Paul back. Telfer. I'm the only Celtic fan that ever liked Paul Telfer.
Paul Telfer made
but that's by the by. So Ralph, we'll come to you because you are a footballing purist, let's say. Did you see the early sparks in the Ronnie? Because I think me and you were a wee bit more optimistic, or at least a wee bit more open to change. We didn't resist change as much as Ralph did. We did. So I'm talking. Sorry, I apologise. Obviously, sorry.
You said Ralph.
Even you
knew there was some fact he called him optimistic. Yeah.
Do you know, I was accused of having multiple personalities at the time I was writing.
In fact, the whole world just goes there.
You're actually two personalities. Apologies, Hector, for even daring to say you've got the same personality as well. You get it.
I demand an apology.
You demand to know the names of the people on the podcast. Ali. Yes, so you're a football purist at Etims. Did you see any early signs of you starting to worry that maybe this was a job that was too big, which was the sort of line Ralph was taking early in the diary, especially during the Legia 2 games?
Absolutely. I mean, I think people of our age, we've seen that many managers now, and you always give them a chance, but after the Legia game, not so much the away game, see the home game at Murrayfield, and I thought, Jesus Christ, this guy's a one-trick pony. I was really, really concerned at that point. and I thought this could be Mowbray Mark II. Now the guy hadn't had a chance to bring in the players he wanted, so everyone was fully aware of that. But he looked bereft of a plan B or a plan C. It was just, this is my shape, my team, and I'm going with it. But the game at St Johnstone, when it was a dire first half time, it was dreadful. And then we got the first goal, probably a wee touch of luck as well, with a couple of penalty decisions. But we deserved to win that game. It's as if since that second half performance, we've seen a brand new team. And it's like night and day really from that return game against Legia. So yes, I was concerned after the home defeat, because 2-0, 6-1 flattered us over those two games. It should have been more than 6-1. But in fact, it probably goes back to UEFA's intervention on that decision. Since then, leave it a look at St Johnstone. We've been a totally different team, and it's been great to watch. Really, really delighted with what I've seen.
But in the spirit of fair play and common decency, do you agree with the rest of the footballing media and footballing world, according to Legia Warsaw, that Celtic should have stepped aside and let Legia Warsaw step up and play Maribor?
See that Friday? I was off work that weekend. It's a Friday, and in fact, it came out late the Thursday night, didn't it? It was late Thursday night. It came out and said, look, UEFA's investigating the potential that Legia played a player who hadn't served his suspension. And it was the guy who came on, was it 6-1 in aggregate, and it was like 4 minutes to go, and they brought him on, or 5 minutes to go. So that opened the door a wee touch, but see, in reality, when it came to the decision on the Friday, it was as if it was Christmas came early. The whole Twitter, internet went a bit crazy, and it was just an incredible day that Friday. So I wasn't expecting it. We got a major bit of luck, but then when you looked at the rules are rules, and Legia really have no one else to blame but themselves for that. And I think what they've done after that, by sacking the people involved, tells its own story. So they made a big mistake. They should have gone through. We by far the better team, but guess what? They broke the rules, and it's there in black and white. So
don't worry. I've got a song that aptly sums that up for the end of the podcast tonight. But the first lesson for Legia Warsaw is they should have hired a decent football administrator like a Jim Farry type or a Campbell Ogilvie type in the first place. Or who's the other guy, Sandy? I was going to say Sandy, but I mean he's probably sitting tutting away there, knowing full well that their T's weren't crossed and those I's weren't dotted, and everything wasn't folded at a fine 33-degree angle.
But the issue they had, Desi, was that the 3-man UEFA panel that they made the appeal to consisted of Martin McGuinness, was the first one, Pope Francis was obviously number 2, and the third person was Peter Law. So really, if they'd known that, they could have saved themselves probably a lot of money, legal fees, and a lot of embarrassment. Just accepted it.
It was a strange event, because I was sitting in a local pub, my wife and my daughter, and you're talking, and you can see the Sky Sports News, the ticker tape, etc., and the square of video. I can't remember if it was games on that night, but I mean, you kind of half see the ticker tape, and then suddenly it's Celtic flash up, and it's the goals in Legia Warsaw, and I'm thinking, they've sacked him. Dale's been sacked. I'm thinking, this is how bad it's got, that he's lost the dressing room, they've had to take immediate action, things have really kicked off in an Inverness Cali style with John Barnes. I thought, here we go. And then actually I tweeted you, Ralph, to say what's going on, and because I hadn't been on Twitter, and I text you, I hadn't been on Twitter, and I hadn't seen any of the forum news, anything at all. I'd been away from a computer all day and my phone, and you're like, yes, it's another Scion. So suddenly a minor Swiss team were getting a mention by all the Celtic fans again, and then it was suddenly a case of you're walking in cloud nine and laughing away and going, well, rules are rules. Suddenly we became the world's most formidable rules administration fans in the world. we're the best fan administrators in the world. Suddenly we knew every rule. But according to paragraph C, subsection 2, you must not. And then, but the funniest thing was, Ralph, this week, moving kind of jumping a step to the Maribor game. Suddenly we had the issue of Celtic and Effie Ambrose. Can Effie Ambrose play in Europe? And you saw Celtic shitting himself by leaving him at home. And then because of the Legia Warsaw game being declared null and void, suddenly his suspension didn't count. So that was quite strange to see the whole revolution.
But we did the sensible thing. We just rang
Reverse
UEFA and said,
charges, of
look,
course.
this is what's happened. Can he play or not? Yeah, or can he play or can he not play? And they said, no, it's you, Peter. It's fine. He can play. And that was that.
Can I tell you a wee story?
And somebody
Sorry,
at
mate.
Legia should have done that. Well, I'm glad they didn't, but somebody at Legia should have done that. With the money at stake and, the level of professionalism it's supposed to be, they should have funded it.
Sorry, Hector, I've got you in a second. But the amount of red tape that we always hear about, and the amount of people employed by these organisations basically getting cash for next to nothing. You'd imagine like there's always these free refs and there's always an observer, etc. You'd imagine UEFA's probably getting an administrator for every match. There's that much money floating around the place. So you wonder why they don't phone up and say, here's our intended squad or whatever. Can you confirm they all are available? But thank God, did he? Hector, you had a story to tell?
No, it was just a wee funny one. A good pal of mine I worked with, known him for many years. He's got a season ticket over at Ibrox, and again has had for many years. So I met him today. Had some lunch with him today, couple of beers, and he said to me, I said, how you doing? He goes, how am I doing? He was away on holiday for a fortnight, and he was away when that UEFA judgment came through. Sorry, the first decision about Legia had been kicked out. He goes, couldn't believe it. He's honest, which you always like. He goes, could not believe it. Destroyed my fucking holiday. Destroyed it. Right? and the beauty of it was, he's dead honest about it. Right? Burst out laughing. I think there's people in the bar burst out laughing. Right? Just the way he said it. Brutally honest about it. And that actually was part of it, because our joy and our obviously overwhelmed with the fact it was turned around by UEFA, rightly so, was the fact that the pain for those across the city, as if things haven't been bad enough for them in the last few years, that just really, really hurt them almost as much as a lot of other things that's happened recently. So it was a wonderful thing to hear pain so loud.
It was quite astonishing. So then we get the reprieve, we get to the draw, we get Maribor, and at that point, I can honestly say, when someone, I had a friend in Ireland, Milman, he's a Chelsea fan, so he's going, lucky so and so is blah blah blah. That would just get he's more embarrassed, etc. And I was so glad of that verdict. My basic reaction was, well, I'm just glad that it makes sure we qualify for the Europa League. Because at that stage I was still thinking, well, chances are Maribor had a good run in the Europa League last year, beating various teams and going out to the eventual winners. That I thought, well, even if we do get beat, there's still this lucky bonus that we're going to be in the Europa League, because I thought after getting put out with Legia Warsaw, we would struggle. We would then struggle to even qualify for the Europa League in that qualifying playoff, regardless of who we got, i.e. the Cypriot waiters 11, if you're allowed to say these sort of comments in the Malky Mackay days. But so suddenly we get Maribor, and then before that, Ronnie Delia comes out and says, okay, I made a mistake against Legia, I've tried too much too soon, we're getting to know each other. And then, as you say, Hector, we come to the start of the Scottish season, and we're away to St Johnstone. The first 45 minutes, it was quite dull. It wasn't dire. There wasn't much happening. Apart from, before I forget, James Forrest and the Lionel Messi role, which I quite like to see. That was even like those small touches, as in saying to James Forrest, just you go and do whatever you want to do, so to speak. Have a free role, come in and play in the middle, and then go back out wide instead of the usual hug the touchline. So I know he's now injured, but I could kind of see wee ideas there that I thought, well, that's good. At least we're trying different things. As you say, we get at half time. Ralph is a big fan of positive team talks at half time, according to the diary. Ralph, you must have been glad to see Celtic then came out in the second half, and we even get a wonder show from, I think it's a new signing, is it Duck Baricta? Some guy that's appeared for, I don't know where he came from, He appears to have appeared out of nowhere, this guy. But he had a great second half against St Johnstone, unless your name's Neil McCann, of course.
I thought they all did very well, but it was just that that tackle with Cummins won the ball and it went out to Stokes, and then it gave everybody a lift, and suddenly they remembered that they're not a bad side when they play together. And after that one went in, I was expecting 3 or 4, and it turned out to be 3. That set them up, because don't forget St Johnstone won the cup last year, and then you've got Dundee United afterwards, which they'd beaten Motherwell and Aberdeen already, and I wasn't expecting a great result, certainly not a great result from that game. I thought we'd at best get a draw.
Well, that's a good point. Just before we come to the actual performance against the United, Hector, before that we'd had the Legia Warsaw disaster, let's say, or the extremely poor performances or non-performances against Legia. Then we were facing St Johnstone away. St Johnstone is the cup winners. St Johnstone away, and then Flag Day with Fergus McCann returning. So realistically, the pressure was probably as high as it possibly, unless we were playing Rangers back in the day, the pressure was probably as high as it could have been on Ronnie Roller-coaster. So we come to the case of, right, we're going to perform on the Wednesday. We win that game. We upset Neil McCann, which is even better. And then we come to the United game, and Fergus turns up. Hector, were you wearing a bonnet that day?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't wearing a bonnet. But I was delighted. I think we all were, with the response he got from the fans. But it was a terrific day. Obviously, Flag Day is always good, but it just went really well from Fergus's reception to the performance. Probably the first 10 minutes was a bit ropey. A better team may have scored a couple of goals against us, but after that, I thought we were outstanding at times. The pass and move play was really good. The interchanging was great. I was really impressed with the movement. The interchanging was really from where I was sitting. It was good to see. It was players like Berge in the left, but he wasn't like Sammy. He wasn't like hugging the left-hand touchline. He would come into the striker's position, then fall deep into midfield. And I was looking at that thinking, crikey, if you're playing against these guys, that is awfully tough to mark, because if the fullback goes into the striker's position, it leaves that hole on that side of the pitch vacant. Most fullbacks won't do that. So then if Berge goes in there, it's leaving the 2v2 and the 2 centre backs. So if he drops into midfield, he's creating space. So it was just clever to watch. But overall, delighted with the performance. The young guy that came in for Man City is Denier. Again, ropey start, but after that, he's got his goal. But he was very different in how he plays from Van Dijk, in that Van Dijk's obviously a culture player. He's obviously strong as well, good in the air, but Denier's more physical, and he tends to go touch tight on the striker rather than maybe drop off 2 or 3 yards. So that was a good way of complementing each other. And hopefully if Van Dijk can stay, and I think he will if we get to the Champions League, then they two could become a really, really good partnership this season. So I was delighted with the Flag Day.
Talking about Denier, do you think Celtic are the first team to ever drop a World Cup defender for a 19-year-old loanee, with Ambrose getting moved out?
Well, he was obviously suspended, wasn't he, Effie, from, what was it? Was it a 2-game suspension? I can't remember. I think he was suspended, or whatever it may be, or he was. I think the challenge with Effie though was that, and the same way as Aguirre, I've noticed that as well. They've not really had a break. They played the whole last season straight to the World Cup camp, probably for training for 3 weeks, then the World Cup. So they two probably do require a break right now. But no, the boys come in, did well. Again, was solid enough during the week, and fully merits keeping his place. So it's up to Effie to work hard to get back in again. So
we've got Denier in, we've got Berge in. Ronnie Roller turns up. We were talking about this on the last podcast about how we were impressed with some of the things he was saying, especially in respect to the kind of project idea, and his goal is always constant improvement. And Ralph, he's come out with some nice touches about he doesn't give a shit. I like that. I don't give a shit if a player makes a mistake, and then he does it again and makes another mistake. I don't give a shit it's only if he's not improved. If he's rubbish in spring and if he's poor in spring and he's still poor in autumn, then I've got a problem. So he's willing to give the guys time to take on his methods and learn exactly and get our fitness up. We'll come to that in a second. But then he turns.
But you notice again, he said I've got a problem, not he's got a problem.
The buck stops with him, because that's exactly what's going to happen. at the time he also said he's interested in buying in first team players and young players they could develop for the future. Then it get denier, and it seemed we didn't actually appreciate it meant other people's young players they could develop for the future. Because we all seem to believe that we weren't going to have any loanees, and that's all we seem to be buying recently. Are we that skint that we have to wait till the Champions League is guaranteed before we can get a striker?
In one sense, you can see why he's doing it. With Tonev and the boy Mubarak that's coming in this week, there's already a price agreed. You know, like a first choice if we want to buy him after 12 months. With Denier, there's not. So that does sound pretty much like we're just going to get him for a year and then that's that. It'll avoid situations like Borita, Pukki, Baldi that are coming in £2 or £3 million spent on them, and they're never going to make it. I think it's Celtic now. I think that's pretty much established, and it just means that money's not getting wasted. I think that's the difference. I'm not a big fan of loan signings at all. Especially you're getting somebody in on loan and it's displacing somebody like, say, Lee Griffiths, who I still think could go on and have a real good shot at being a good striker for us. But it's Dale's decision. He'll stand and fall with him.
Right, I seen him talking about Denier and basically said he already thinks he's a £10 million player. The experience he's had been doing at Man City on like education trips and also like youth tournaments, etc. He already believes he's a £10 million player, and he's been seen as the next up and coming company. And I saw somebody tweeting basically, if you'd sorry.
You beat me to
basically, if you'd offered you Vincent Kompany at 17, you'd have bit their hands off, so to speak. So I don't mean like it's the economics of football, and it's also I think it's also a reality check for a lot of Celtic fans to say, wait a minute, if we have to go and get loanees from Man City, one of the richest clubs in the world, that isn't the worst thing in the world, is it? If we were hoping to save the £5 million to buy a decent striker, and by £5 million I mean a £2 million striker and £3 million on wages and additional fees over his contract, the way kind of football works, because I can't see he's buying anyone at £5 million transfer fee.
We know you said there that he was christened the new company, and apparently the gag was within Celtic Park the next day. Sundom Sevco for Brown Christmas.
That's his nickname. I wonder if they've still got the yellow jersey at Celtic Park. Remember when you were rotting in training, you used to have like a Celtic bib, a yellow bib, and you had to wear it, and everybody was.
The Reggie Linker bib.
Yeah, I think
that was
got to keep it, didn't they?
Very good, very good. So we had the Dundee United game where Celtic ran riot, but then we get drawn. So then we get drawn with Maribor. We're starting to kind of come back towards the middle of being really doubtful about Ronnie Dealer. We're kind of coming back to saying, well, that's a smashing result against a team that was unbeaten. I don't know if Dundee United let in a goal at that point before they played Celtic. There's only
I don't know.
Yep, so that was two games, and then I know again people might be listening going, it's only Dundee United. You can only beat them when they were top of the league at the time. So then we hammered Dundee United. It's a shame they let in a goal, which, that reminds me, Ralph, while you're here, would you like to publicly declare your love for Craig Gordon? Because in the diary every day, you're literally putting a picture of him and looking at it longingly, by the sounds of it.
Oh, he's great, isn't he? I think we've bought a watch there. I really do. Gordon was probably the best Scottish goalkeeper over the last 10 years. Obviously, he's not played. He's been injured, but he took a knock against Dundee United, and the fella I was sitting next to, we watched him, and I thought, oh, that's it. His knee's playing up again, but he walked it off, and he just looked a lot more in control. It's obviously experience. A lot more in control of the back. Yeah,
you touched on it, Hector. No, Ralph, this week you touched on the diary about how when you're watching a game for the North Stand, you can see it a whole lot. You get a lot better impression than obviously do watching on TV through another set of eyes and a kind of fourth wall idea. But did you see a lot on the park, off the ball, that kind of impressed you? Where I think Ronnie Dealier's got the whole team mentality. It's on every one of these to step up, and you look at somebody like young McGregor, who's really stepped up to the plate with the chance he's had. I think it's kind of starting to show through.
Yeah, he would never have got a shot on the Lennon. I think Lennon had actually forgotten he'd loaned him out last season because Notts County were hankering to keep him again, weren't they, after Christmas? And it was just like something that you got the impression something had arrived on Lennon's desk, and it was, oh, I tell him they can keep him. The one thing I did notice that was different was although there's maybe a wee bit to be done on shouting at each other. Nobody's getting shouted at if they do anything wrong. Nobody's leading on the pitch. Against Maribor, you could see that Charlie Mulgrew was kind of directing traffic. But where I was sitting on Saturday, they were talking to each other a lot more, and they were looking like they were ready to support each other a lot more. And it does come back down to that responsibility thing. To go back to the Telfer Nakamura thing, Telfer's job was to be behind them. Lennon used to do it as well, just be there for the pass back if there was nothing else on. That was part of his job. And they seemed to be sticking to it a wee bit more on Saturday. Can't say the Maribor game, it just looked like they were determined not to collapse more than anything else. They didn't want to take too many chances. They wanted to keep as much possession as they could and come out of there with a fighting chance for Celtic Park, which is good. I mean, you'll sit there thinking we could kill this game. And same as a bit at the end with the corner where it wasn't floated in. If that ball had been floated in, they'd get a breakaway and scored. Dyler would have got pelters.
A Darren Jackson moment, as I call it,
at that stage.
That goal years ago, Hearts, Jose que fucking Tongo. I still remember it to this day. Darren Jackson losing the ball. He done a David Ginola, lost the ball in the corner, and they ran out the park and scored in something like the 94th minute at Tynecastle. But Hector, coming to you as our tactician, the Celtic, like we touched on earlier, the Commons tackle, the Commons super sliding tackle as it's known in football these days. So you've got the whole harrying, which reminds me a lot of the Martin O'Neill days when there was a lot of kind of harrying. But the harrying kind of two guys, or as soon as we lose the ball, we're kind of chasing it straight away. But also the use of wingers on both sides of the park. Have you been impressed so far with what's coming on?
Yeah, certainly the last couple of games, absolutely. I touched upon it with Big Ace performance where he was he starts off wide left, but he doesn't stay there. He comes into the striker midfield, so there's a lot of variation there. And if you see McGregor's goal the other night, I mean, he's playing right, but first thing in his mind when the ball was played out into Big A, he sprinted into the striker position. So the onus is certainly, you mentioned more responsibility in all the players, and you can actually see that. You mentioned wingers though. I don't think we have two wingers just now. I wouldn't say McGregor or Big A are wingers. So I think the guys that he's brought in, that Delia's brought in, a couple of wing guys, I think they are wingers. I think the other two are more guys who will keep a position, they'll kind of stretch the match, but they're flexible enough to come in and play off a striker and play off the midfield, which is actually what you want to do, because I don't know about you, this conversation with a guy in the work this week about, Germany, how they play and how the top teams are playing, it's almost like a 4-2-3-1, which is fine. But in this country, we tend to think of a 4-2-3-1 and that's your position. But the beauty of why these teams are so good, obviously the fact they've got world-class players, but it's also the fact that, they may start off as, for example, a holding mid or the guy that's wide right, but they don't stick to that position. They're given the licence and flexibility and, again, football intelligence to come off of there and rotate and make it so difficult for teams to defend against you. So I'm actually starting to see that over the last couple of games. Now, it's early doors and game tomorrow in Inverness and we're playing on Tuesday night against Maribor, but if you can just get through the Maribor game next Tuesday and get that success and buy yourself some more time and get that striker he wants and probably that other creative mid, we're in a good position. And it's good football to watch.
It's good. Sorry, Ralph. It's a good point you're making. As in, maybe I should have said more to the point. Kind of wing play, and it's no just the midfielder runs up so far and then pushes it into the corner for the wing back, i.e. an Izaguirre or a Matthews to run in. And again, I liked it, like looking at even Lustig there, like he's just came back, he's got his operation, he's had a rest in the summer, he's back, he's fresh, and you can we're now looking at him as one of the established Celtic hardcore professionals in the team, and I think there's like an automatic respect for guys like that. And then you've got your Craig Gordons who's been there, seen it, done it, thankful for the chance to be there. So I think and then you've got these young guys like McGregor, Touchwood, Forrest comes back. I don't know if he gets. I think if Forrest maybe gets fit again, there could be a bit of interest from down south if he gets fit before the transfer window closes. But if no, then Delia obviously thinks a lot of him.
Sorry, Desi, I was going to add that, and I think I mentioned this the last podcast, but if I didn't, I'll certainly do it now. I think looking at how Ronnie Daly has the team set up, I think the two signings that will make some difference to the team and how we play and improve even more. We all know about a number 9. He's looking for a striker. Clearly, a striker who can hold the ball up, a bit of a physical presence with some pace. We don't really have that right now, and that would make a big difference. But for me, the second one, and almost more crucial, is where Mulgrew has been playing next to Beaton at times and Johansson a little bit. Mulgrew's okay. He does a decent job, centre defence, left back, right. But to play that position, you've got to be able to use the ball quickly. And that kind of pivot, kind of playmaker role. If you think of it like Pirlo with Italy, I'm not for 1 second saying, yeah, a player of Pirlo's ability, but somebody with that mindset, who as soon as they get it, they know where they're going to pass it short, quickly, keep the ball moving. Mulgrew, because he's know his natural position, he'll take that extra 1 or 2 touches a lot, and that slows us down.
As we call it.
Well, exactly. That pretty much. And again, it's not a criticism of Mulgrew, because that's not his it's not where he's naturally inclined to play. But if we can get a guy who can just receive the ball quickly, use it quickly, constantly making that ball move, and we have guys in front of him moving all over the place, what a difference. And the third thing I was going to say, Scott Brown. Scott Brown will be in his absolute element playing for Ronnie Daly's team. Because Brown, I think, has been kind of held back a bit over the last few years about being a bit more defensively minded, disciplined in his performance in terms of keeping to the shape. But Scott Brown's best performance for me is when he used his energy to get up and press teams high up. And I think him and Johansson together doing that will be fantastic. So I've got big hopes if we get the striker, that creative mid, and Brown back. I think.
Agree with you about Brown, definitely. Was it the Moscow game away when he came on?
Yep.
And they just played him in front of the midfield, and he just harassed, and that unsettles teams, especially at that level, because they like to have the time and they like to take the pressure off. Yep. And if we're not letting them do that, I think when all's said and done with Legia, we'll just put that one down as coming a wee bit too early for him. Yeah, but we got a reprieve, and that was that.
But that's a lesson learned, though, Ralph. Surely to goodness, I mean that's the last 2 or 3 seasons now, right? So I know the SPFL doesn't start early, so we know that. So either we've got to make a case to bring it forward a few weeks, or we've got to get our pre-season really fixed for next year, because we can't get through this again. We've got to hit the ground absolutely running. If that means getting 6 friendlies in, and not flying around every second day to a different country, which can't help the team, just say, right, we'll have a tournament, pre-season tournament at Celtic Park, we'll get 2 or 3 games lined up, 2 or 3 games not too far away, and batter 6 friendlies in as quick as you can, because we can't take the risk.
Well, that's a good point. I'll come to something along those lines in a second, Hector. But just going back to the other night and the squads. The squad, I was texting Ralph. We had been discussing the squad, and for the last few years, there's been a complaint about Celtic midfielders not being able to get beyond the forwards. I mean, that's one thing you cannot criticise Johansson for. At one point, he managed to get so far in front of the forwards, he was playing defence for Maribor by clearing it off the line. I was texting Ralph basically, we'll get our new centre half. That was one of the best defensive face hitting the ball ever. I was in a pub in London, and everybody jumped up, yes, and then the guy next to me was like, what happened? I went, I think the keeper saved it, and then sure enough, and you see it in slow, because Maribor and right were kind of trying to break up the park, where the ball get kicked up the park, so the camera swung away, and it was until like 20 seconds later you get action, slow-mo action replay, and you heard like 40 Celtic fans in a London pub all going, oh, at the same time. It was absolutely brilliant. And also, Hector, I was going to ask your opinion on this new Scottish midfielder we've signed, the guy Kyle. Did you see him, Kyle, the other night? Young boy with a black hair. He was a revelation in the centre of the midfield. He was tackling everybody. I'd never heard of the guy. He's a bit like that. He's a bit like that Barikta guy that came on a few weeks ago in St Johnstone. Oh.
And I've got to be honest again. I've put my hands up. I have criticised Kyle many times for being a headless chicken, right? But
Well, yeah, but
he was
see,
outstanding
maybe
as
it's
the
a
match
case
during
of
the week.
like it's often been said, footballers are rather dumb and their brains are in their feet. So again, maybe like a lot of times they can go into a football pitch and kind of follow basic instructions. Ralph, you've touched on this a few times. So maybe it's a case of they do need to be told the simple things, like maybe Kyle was told that is your area there. That those 20 yards with 20 yards or 20 yards by 30. That is your area. You win every ball in that area, win it and give it away. Because the only thing that annoyed me the other night was when Charlie McGrew suddenly was getting the Gary Caldwell feeling sometimes. Sometimes he's 50 yard diagonals to McGregor worked a few times, but then the times when you thought this hold it, this kill the game, this hold it, he would be doing it again and we'd be losing the ball. So obviously it worked sometimes, it didn't work others. But again, I think they're being instructed.
But even if it does work, it becomes predictable, doesn't it?
Well,
there's
another good thing, Hector. How happy were you to see Celtic actually having variations at set plays? I mean, corners to the back post, corners to the near post, different guys getting up at corners. At one point, David Proven got upset because Denia wasn't getting up for a corner. he was getting upset.
You don't listen to that mug. Just on that game though, right? You're right about the corners, with good flexibility, but I couldn't believe the tactics of Maribor. I like most Celtic fans, was absolutely delighted to see them hanging back in their own half. And I know at full time, I think both Craig Gordon and the manager both said that they knew that Maribor are a counter-attacking team. But if Maribor had done their homework and clearly they had someone watching us at St Johnstone that showed you the guy in the tee, and he was there on Saturday, surely they'd know that we leave ourselves exposed in the full-back areas and have a go at our defence. So, again, Christmas, it came early how they played the first half. The start of the second half, they had a go at us, maybe the first 10, 15 minutes. We kind of weather a small storm. Didn't create many chances, but we had a short storm. And after that, I thought we were in control again. But I was pleasantly surprised with their tactics on Wednesday. And I actually think, I'm hearing that on Twitter and that and through the various websites that they reckon there'll be 55,000 there for Tuesday night. I reckon we will blow them away. We'll absolutely walk over them on Tuesday night. I reckon we'll win by at least 2 goals on Tuesday.
They've opened up the rest of the line stand, haven't they?
Yeah. I think we'll beat them by at least 2 goals on Tuesday if we play. No daft mistakes, just 11 v 11, play our game.
There's a good point. Like the other night, Chris Commons sitting on the bench. What game was it where I think he took Commons off? He took a few of the established players off, and he was getting lauded by a few of us for like suddenly these changes that we didn't expect. It's usually this your token substitutions, whereby these seem to have a wee bit of kind of thought behind them, and then the other night seeing Commons. So Ralph, you touched upon the Maribor game plan in respect to Chris Commons.
I thought honestly that the idea we've got is that Chris Commons is all the play goes through him from middle to forward. It goes through him first, and I figured they would just mark him out of the game. And I think they sat back because that didn't happen. They would have sat in the dressing room and said, hold on, Commons isn't playing. Right, so what are they going to do? So they sat back to wait and see what we would do. And of course we scored. And that probably upset their game plan even more. But after that, they come back into it a wee bit. They got a goal exactly the same way as Legia did as well, when they come back down the right-hand side. And I think you might see Mulgrew taking that left-back position away from home in Europe later in the season. But it was the same thing, and I thought they were going to come back at us, but we settled. And we didn't let them back at it. And although I think they were confused in the first half. I honestly did, and that might explain why they come out with a wee bit more attack-minded in the second half, in the early stages. But we just soaked it up.
Well, this is it. Like, I was really impressed the fact that, and it reminded me, and always the one thing I always remember about Neil Lennon, regardless, that as a player, was him saying his first job, as soon as he got on the football pitch for Celtic, his first job was to ensure within the first 10 minutes every player got a touch of the ball. Everybody was made comfortable on the pitch, and like watching Celtic the other night, you could kind of see everybody was happy to get the ball to their feet. Like Denier and Van Dijk, I still think there was a few bomb scare moments there. If they had a touch of the Effie Ambrose, okay, I've sold one guy a dummy, well let me run into the next 3 guys and try and beat them. which could, especially in Europe away, you're kind of thinking there's no any need for that. Just pass it to the midfield and hold your position. Because at 1-0 up, I was texting you, Ralph, saying, right, 9 guys in our own half, that's all we need now. But then suddenly we had like 9 hitting into their penalty area, and I was kind of like, we're still a bit gung-ho at times. But again, considering where we were against Legia, I'm quite willing to take a 1-1 draw with Maribor, where I thought we were by far the better team. And I thought the tactics were really impressive, and I thought the composure was really impressive. Obviously, as you say, Hector, they had a bit of pressure when the commute charged up in the second half, but we weathered that with any real worry. Gordon once again had a fantastic save, that the old postage stamp cliche.
Is that Ralph off?
The hankies getting up. But so again, it's kind of, we don't want to keep getting overly positive and then getting crashed back down to earth. But what I did like about Ronnie Delia was him saying, we've got a second chance at this, we cannot blow it. As in, I think he understands the enormity of what Celtic is now. Like, even what they always say it as, a big club and a global brand, etc. And everybody that comes, especially managers, are always happy to be here. But as he said, he went into a pub in Glasgow for a quick half pint after a night out recently. I will never do it again. I will stick to the golf course, because there was so many. Everybody was wishing him well, and it didn't get any hassle whatsoever from any fans. But it was just the amount of people wanting to kind of get involved with him. He just couldn't believe it. There's that much interest in Celtic, and him being the manager of Celtic. Suddenly, I think that gave him a wee kind of idea of the size of job. And again, that's your kind of thing. That's what you imagine John Collins is there for, to help him understand that, and instead of getting pictured next to departure signs. Ralph, in Glasgow.
I don't think it helps. I mean, he kept saying, I understand I've come to a bigger club, I understand this. But until you actually see it, until you've experienced it, I don't think he had any idea. I think his eyes were well and truly opened over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it's certainly not made him buckle. You know, and you have to admire him for that. When you get a job as a manager, the first few weeks is the only time you can really make your mark in a club. And that's maybe what he was trying to do at first. You know, when he played Berget in that first game, and he said, no, we're doing it this way. And it backfired on him a wee bit, but he's come back from it, and he's come back from it stronger. But I think it was Pensionaboy that pointed out in the replies, the last guy that came in did things his own way and changed everything was Steen.
Yeah,
and
that brings me very nicely. Hector, you just touched on next year's pre-season, which is definitely something I could see Ronnie Delia trying to take control of, but I would imagine the marketing and the finance department may have a say in that. But again, if Celtic do well this season, then maybe again they'll get invited back to things like the Emirates Cup or the Aviva Cup, and it won't be like crazy long journeys or just plain random, like playing Spurs in Iceland or Finland, wherever it was. But Hector, my point is, this week or the last couple of days, a subject that we have discussed many times in relation to Celtic and their progress, Lennoxtown. Ronnie Delia's basically wanting Lennoxtown totally changed. He's wanting six indoor pitches with a roof, because he's sick and tired of the weather, which makes training too slow and makes players too ill, which I thought was really amazing to hear that. And that's along with the new regime whereby players actually have lunch together and they're not allowed to drink Coke or Iron Brew. Were you impressed with that sort of stuff?
Well, I've been to Lennoxtown about 2 or 3 times, and it's a fantastic setting, it's a fantastic facility, but where it is, kind of the foot of the Campsies, get up the Campsies a little bit, the weather there, it can be quite windy at times. Certainly it's Scotland, you're guaranteed rain, so rain and wind. He's right. How can you have good quality training sessions if a lot of the time, particularly where we now, we're August and the heating's on already at night time, right? so you're going to get minimum October through to March, 6 months. You're going to get weather there that's pretty shit. So a guy from Scandinavia clearly is used to a far worse winter than us. So he knows what's required. I think he mentioned certainly a minimum, a dome, a full-size pitch with a dome, easy enough to do. He mentioned the actual pitch surface as well, but he's saying that, I think, because of the climate. So, if he's saying he can get 10% more out of the team, by having better training sessions. It's common sense. I mean, just basic common sense. The dietary thing's interesting, because one, what he's saying is absolutely correct. Two, I was astonished to find out that previously players were drinking Iron Brew and Coke. Athletes drinking that after training sessions. Couldn't believe it. So that was really disappointing. Again, not on the new manager's guard. He's saying this shouldn't be happening. But the third thing is, Daly's made it quite clear how he feels about it. It's not just your fitness and technique, absolutely, but it's your whole well-being. It's things like your sleeping, your diet, being together, the psychology, the sports science. He believes you've got to get all of them working together, and he made that clear early doors. So if he's in the door making these changes already, and he can get by Maribor, buy himself a bit more time, we could have something really good here without jumping too far ahead. It could all come crashing down on Tuesday. I don't think it will, but everything he says makes sense, and he's saying things that we've all been speaking about for years. So it's just good to hear and good to see, and I hope he does well. I really hope he buys himself some time, gets into the Champions League, keeps playing good football, because he could be really good.
Ralph, I was going to say, I'm not sure if it was a comment in the diary or else something Ronnie Daly actually said, but it was something along the lines of, I may make signings or I may not, but the most important thing is to improve the players that are here, kind of idea, and the start of that is to ensure that the infrastructure at Celtic, which I kind of found a bit, I know we've talked about it, as you say, Hector, we've talked about it so often, but you'd imagine this is always part of an ongoing football management plan. I mean, like, I was quite surprised that Celtic haven't addressed these things, or is it just a case of people getting complacent? A football club getting complacent overall? And like, we think the board are complacent about fans and signings. Is it a case of maybe Celtic get a bit complacent overall, Ralph?
Well, all that kind of thing's down to the manager, isn't it? I can't imagine Neil Lennon would have been big on the healthy eating and healthy lifestyle. So if he doesn't 100% believe in it, then he's not going to be able to put that across to the players. With Dyler, he'll put that across to the players because he believes in it, they'll come round to his way of thinking, especially when they start to see signs that it is improving them. If you take the improvement in the performance of the team, the fitness as well will come on in the season, and he'll be able to say to them, this is because you're doing it this way, this is because you're doing it that way. And the more they believe in him, the more they'll run for him, and the better the team will become.
Well, that's a good point. The more they'll run for him. Like you looked at that. What's his name? The Norwegian guy, Johansson. Sorry, I was going to say Finn Bogason, but I don't think he's even there anymore. He's been let go. But Johansson, he's basically running here, there, and everywhere all day long. So I think you can kind of see that's the style of player that we're going to be looking for. A bit of skill, a bit of steel too, and kind of being able to last and hopefully make some good substitutions. Up front will be interesting, because I thought Stokes did quite well the other night, apart from you can have a sweepstake these days and when will Anthony Stokes, instead of having it on a Celtic player to score, you can have it when will Anthony Stokes get declared offside. I mean, it seems to take him about 5 times to realise there's a line there. He always gets called offside. But
that's the problem with pressing the goalkeeper. Because as soon as the ball comes back up, he's offside.
I think he did quite well against Maribor, leading the line, which isn't something he's kind of famed for. But that kind of brings us. So you've got Griffiths too, who came on as a sub. Him and Stokes are. I don't know if they're the same sort of player, but they play the same sort of role, as in ball to feet and kind of beat a guy and hit it in the bottom corner. But obviously he's looking for a target man, he says, for this wide ball coming in. Hector, is there anybody in your mind? Should we just go? Well, Samaras is away now. He was not exactly a target man, but Gary Hooper, could we maybe go back and see about him? Because I don't think he'll be too happy at Norris these days.
We certainly know a target man, Hooper, though. You know, the manager's made it clear he's looking for somebody with a bit of physical presence who can compete for the ball in the air, has got pace. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would take Hooper back in a second. I think he's probably perfect for the team we've got there now. So yeah, I would consider that. But I'm going to get a bit annoyed here and say somebody that we all spoke about a couple of years ago, probably way out of our league now. Jordan Rhodes would have been the perfect guy for Celtic. Perfect guy for Celtic. Because that boy
just put in a bid for him today, haven't they?
It's probably something. But we could have got him probably for about £4 million. I'm probably going to go for £8 million now. So it's just frustrating because he would be perfect.
Yeah, myself in Bedford Falls, we we had a big argument on a podcast. Probably 18 months ago or something. Remember Bedford Falls before he became a jogging addict? And basically I was saying along the same lines, why don't we go and buy somebody like Jordan Rhodes? And he was like, Jordan Rhodes would never come to Celtic, couldn't afford them. Even back then he was like a £12 million striker. And again, that guy has probably carried Blackburn on his back for the last couple of years.
Yep.
Again, like, how much money must Jordan Rhodes be on to have stayed at Blackburn? Because I can't imagine it's a lack of ambition makes him stay at Blackburn. And then, or else, Ralph, you're one to usually touch on off ball behaviour. Why has no other big club get in for Jordan Rhodes? Like even Gordon Strachan said he can't find a place in the Scotland team for Jordan Rhodes. Is Jordan Rhodes just a specialist striker that can only play like your Gary Lineker role, the 10 yards in the centre of the goal, making these 100 shuttle runs?
I think it's more his own mentality. I think you touched on it maybe with lack of ambition. But when he was at Huddersfield, wasn't it?
Yep.
I was in a pub in Huddersfield and I was talking to a few of the locals, because in England they tend to follow the local team a lot more than they do in Scotland. And it was only when Blackburn offered the money they offered for him that he kind of reluctantly left. According to the guy I was talking to there, he said we had made an offer for him, or at least an inquiry. But he'd promised Huddersfield he'd stay that extra year. But when the Blackburn offer came in, it was just too much for him to turn down. And he reluctantly left. And now he seems to have settled there as well. So he's probably just a guy that treats football as going to his work and coming home. And as long as everybody's happy and he's getting paid well, he's not bothered.
He's also probably younger than most people think. I think he's only 22. You know, maybe forget that because he was banging in the goals for Scotland's 21s, was it 2 seasons ago? So he's still young for a striker, but he's about 6 foot. He's good in the air. He's a predator, and he's built like a tank. So, but he's out of our league. Okay, so we can't afford that.
Hull said to cleanse 12 million. Hull paid 12 million for what's his name? Shane Long.
Barton paid 12 million for him, didn't they?
Oh, sorry, that's correct. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So they've now got that money burning a hole in their pocket with this new EPL deal. No doubt Hull will now give Blackburn 8 or 10 million for Jordan Rhodes. It's just unfortunate.
I'm sure it's 12. I'm sure it's 12 offered.
It says 12 here. I've just looked it up. 12. But again, I think I'd take Jordan Rhodes before Shane Long any day of the week.
Yes.
There's an awful lot of dross getting bandied around down here for millions and millions of pounds. It's absolute nonsense. We were linked with Cameron Jerome, and my cousin sent me a text saying, "Cameron Jerome, we keep hearing he's coming up here. What's he like?" I just hope he doesn't. I don't think there's a player in the bottom half of the English league.
These journeymen, I'm going to ask you a question because I think it's only me that watches Southampton games, and Victor Wanyama sometimes appears to be like a second too slow to me. It's always as if his mind's elsewhere. But then last week he was getting hailed as the possible man of the match against Liverpool. And I was thinking, are people watching the same game as me? Because the game just seemed to pass him by, in my opinion. But then I started to think, well, wait a minute, maybe he was placing himself in a position which was stopping the 2 Liverpool players. Not that way you try and start the whole football picture. Yeah, and I was sort of going, so maybe it's maybe a case of sometimes what you don't do but stopping our guys. And I've seen Southampton, there's a team that could be like Celtic, basically a selling team, and they've had the heart of their team from last year ripped out. And it's the strangest of all, Arthur Boric, who seemed to have a decent enough season last year, automatically surplus to requirements, and now Coleman's saying basically he wants to go, but I think he's basically been shown the door. By the sounds of it. So a target man, Hector, that's what we're needing.
No, a target man like Pinky Sundless, like Again,
but I looked at Bookie the night on the bench the other night, and I'm kind of, as Ralph touched on earlier, you're kind of thinking they're never going to make it. You just get that feeling about some of these guys. They're never going to make it. Some of the guys we can't even remember their names are still in the squad, let alone actually make the bench.
It's a difficult. Michael Higdon would have been ideal, you know.
Aye, come on. You're getting like Gordon Wallace or whatever his name is. Celtics who signed Chris Boyd would be a great signing for Celtic.
Well, somebody like Michael Higdon that can play football.
So that basically
Maybe a bit.
somebody who's not
Take
Michael Hector.
the bits off 4 or 5 players.
But it's
put them in a
basically
blender
saying,
and
I've
come
seen
up with
someone's
one of
going,
their own.
basically we need Chris Sutton. And you kind of, you go, Chris Sutton was great because Henrik
Chris
Larsson was there. And that, no disrespect to Chris Sutton, he was a great player and he was great for us. But and
It also cost us £6 million
then his
for
wages
10 years
keeping
ago.
a farm and you go
So a Chris Sutton nowadays would be what, 12 million?
Then again, we'll put it this way, Chris Sutton was a Chelsea reserve. So that would be Lukaku. So much was he? 20 million maybe to Everton. So that's what we're kind of dealing with. So again, we're back to loan deals. Again, probably for a decent striker. And again, it could be. Maybe that's right. If you can get a Lukaku, surely every Celtic fan would be happy with something like that. Especially with Champions League. Aye, but no.
I think we'd be over the moon.
But again, you've got teams like Man City, teams like Chelsea. I think Chelsea at one point, something like 38 loanees.
But there must be a limit. I was thinking about this the other day. There must be a limit on the amount of players that we can take out and loan and play. There's not a rule that says you can't have 11 players on loan.
I think this is what they're basically saying. They should introduce a limit. So that's.
I think there is a rule because somebody touched on it when Mowbray had that many. Do you remember after January when Robbie Keane came in, there was maybe 5 or 6 loanees in the team, and I'm sure somebody touched on there being a maximum that you're allowed to either play or list in the squad. To prevent, it came out, I think Rangers lent Dundee a couple of players many, many years back to get them through the league or something like that. You know, the two managers were pals, and the SFA actually put a stop to loans between Scottish clubs for a while. And then a few years ago, they allowed it again, but with limits. I would have to look that up and I would have to check it, but I definitely remember it being stopped.
Hector Jordan Rhodes is 24. And he only signed a new contract in July, so I would tell him he has to honour that contract. I mean, you can't go just reneging on these deals. So again, but maybe he's done. Oh, Ralph, you playing the drums? Is that Hector?
No, it's not me.
It's me. I'm just doing
I thought you were looking up Craig Gordon
right?
again there, Ralph. I was going to say, I think maybe he's just doing a Petrov, signing the new deal with agreement that as soon as a decent enough offer, which meets probably his exit clause, which will probably be about 16 million, then Huddersfield or Blackburn are happy. Because again, maybe Huddersfield's got to sell on like Fraser Foster, Newcastle getting 2.5 million or whatever it was, just for Celtic letting Fraser Foster go to Southampton. So it's a lot of money that even if 15 million was going into Blackburn, you don't know how much are going out.
So it's saying here, right, the maximum number appears to be 5, right? However, reading down through the first page of Google, and this is the English Football League and one of the UEFA sites, but it also mentions an article here saying Watford signed 14 loan players.
That's it.
With Zola was the manager. So
Italian mob.
So there you go.
Yeah,
so
and that was basically the owners. The owners also own that club. The same idea with Man City. Well, Man City, the best one surely is Frank Lampard going to Man City. I will never play for another English club. I'm off to New York, but the team doesn't actually start up until next year. So in the meantime, their owners are going to go lend me to their second team. Oh, who's that? Man City. That's fantastic. And then the same for David Villa. So they're getting worried about this whole fair play nonsense in football, whereas it used to be it's just a rich guy's playground. Who's kidding who? But that's okay. So that brings us basically right up to this point. We'll get Maribor Tuesday. Hector, you've already said you're confident of Gubnham. Ralph, you've kind of touched on it. We basically believe that once a free-flowing Celtic at Celtic Park with a crowd behind them.
I don't think they'll play any different. I think
Mark Wahlberg scores a goal. I'm sure that guy was a ringer for Mark Wahlberg. It scored for him with his Boogie Nights hairdo. But yes, so I think we're confident enough
to watch out
Tuesday night. Touchwood, even just a wee ugly 0-0 draw would do me quite fine. Just get into that draw, which I'm assuming is next Friday. We've got Inverness Cali this weekend.
We've got a lot of players rested for that one. Van Dijk's not travelled up there.
Are we looking forward to Tuesday instead, do you think?
Yeah. But it's also nice to see that he's actually using all the squad. He made a comment about that. We've got all these players, we need to use them. So when you can see different things happening, like you touched on earlier on when you said he's got different plans, he's got different ways of doing this. He's using everybody, and that again is. I had him down as a coach instead of a manager.
Yeah, but you had him
But he
as
seems
a
to be
coach.
doing all right with man manager. Well,
so far, so good. A couch. I don't
Say that
couch.
couch.
Is that a German coach? A couch?
yeah, that accent going up and down the M6 again. I had him just down as a coach, a technical kind of guy. But he looks like he's all right at the man management as well. Same as looking after them when they're training. Putting a dome over them. Because I have a feeling Lawler will give them duffel coats and Wellingtons or something.
I was impressed when I saw that today. I'm thinking that's somebody who's thinking ahead, not just thinking about tomorrow and the next day. They're thinking long term. Hector, how do you see the Inverness Cali game going? Are you worried? Are you demanding a result up in Inverness, or are you happy just to see even a draw up there?
Obviously, I want to go and win there. And the thing that we've always got to remember, I know we do, but in general, is that we're going to have several thousand fans travelling to Inverness. So I think whoever's picked the onus is never to put a performance in. But the reality is Tuesday's game is the biggie, by far the biggie. So I agree with rotating the squad, and this is one of the benefits for us with not having Rangers anymore in the top league, because we can afford now to take these chances and be prepared for the bigger matches, and we should be taking advantage of that. And I think even these other guys are run out, so I'd expect tomorrow, like some guys like maybe Liam Henderson maybe getting a start, potentially Griffiths getting a start, others who haven't really played much recently. So I'm all in favour of it.
Fisher.
Well, and by the way, see if we don't win tomorrow, disappointing. But everything's got to be geared towards Tuesday. Tuesday is just so much more important for.
I think it's interesting to see who plays at the back, because again, even though we've got like Badier in, you're wanting to make sure they two are fine. Badier and Van Dijk at the back, just to make sure we're kind of solid and consistent back there, instead of having to make changes suddenly on Tuesday, and maybe there's a wee bit of uncertainty there. But again, not having to chase the game on Tuesday, I think it's going to make a big difference. Like against Warsaw, it was already finished. As soon as we missed that chance, Stokes' chance, and they ran up the park and scored, that was deflated the whole lot of them. So again, I think we'll win. I'll be putting a bet on for Celtic to win, but I don't think I think it's good to know there's not as much pressure. It's not every game's possibly your last Ronnie time.
Plus, that's
a good point. You might suddenly, like again, Pookie might get a chance at a start. You never know. Alright, maybe I'm clutching at straws there. Or what are we not keeping him for Tuesday? Because I think that's what I was thinking. He'd be free flowing for Tuesday.
No, I think he'll keep. I think he'll keep the same team that played on Wednesday, because
I think Commons would run riot against them.
Oh,
they don't like it when you run at them with the ball.
I wouldn't take the risk at all. So I just wouldn't do it, because the way Commons plays, the way if it's a 4-2-3-1, he just can't track back. And if we allow them that extra player in midfield, when Kyle just covered every blade of grass the other night, if Commons is in there and we have not got the ball, he's putting ourselves under so much pressure. So I would not change
you made a good point, Hector, because who's Richie Forlan going to kick if he doesn't see Chris Commons on the pitch? It might have a bit of a mistake. This on the last note of the squad, I've just turned Twitter on there, and I'm really disappointed to say it looks so this squad are starting to get a bit of camaraderie. I've got Stefan Johansson saying thanks to Near Beaton and nominating Joe Bergert for this ice bucket challenge. So we can't have this. We can't have a happy squad, because that's not any use for the Scottish media. They are not going to appreciate that. This sort of nonsense. And speaking of Twitter, Hector, did you put out a shout to the Bampots tonight?
Did indeed, Desi. Let me just go back and find the question we put out. And the question was, to the Twitter community, the Bampots, was Etims podcast being recorded? Question for the Bampots, hashtag lol because, as in our glorious leader, Peter Lol. Hashtag lol because, ask the folk to keep it clean.
I'm yes because, I can see there was... Let's upset those no Celtic fans who complain that Celtic fans should not discuss politics during the diary or on etims.net. In fact, that amazes me. Well, instead of Ralph's rant, I just like to have Desi Mon's dirge to the person the person on Etims. When I put up the bit about the referendum and the wee blue book over at www.wingsoverscotland.net, I'd recommend everybody reads the wee blue book who's interested in the Scottish referendum. So I put up a link saying basically it was the wee blue book that everybody in green and white should read. And somebody wrote back in, and I've no idea where these George Galloway fans come from, right? But somebody wrote back in about how Scotland's going to be, it's going to be Armageddon. How many times have we heard this week? It's going to be Armageddon, especially for Catholics in Scotland. Because Scotland's such a bigoted country, blah, 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 and Catholics are so hated in Scotland. And as soon as Scotland went independence, all that mob would be trying to kill Catholics, or this blah, 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 utter shite. And then I'd never get a chance to actually reply to them that which side is Labour courting for votes before the election and nothing to do with the referendum, and now which mob are having 10,000 people march through Edinburgh in support of a no vote and Better Together, the Orange Order. So if that doesn't tell you that maybe a few Celtic fans are a bit misguided about the whole referendum, I'll never know what will. Basically, you've got the BNP, you've got the EDL, you've got the Orange Order, and strangely, you've also got the Catholic Church standing for a no vote. So if you get the Catholic Church standing with the Orange Order, there's something strange in the establishment, and that makes me even more suspicious about why all these people want to keep the status quo. How downtrodden are we that all these people want to keep us where we are?
On a positive front, Desi. No, well, one or two, but on a positive front, the people who have been impacted the most from the housing schemes. There was 18,000 people were canvassing the housing schemes. The ones that have never asked their opinion from YouGov or Mori in any of these polls, they were canvassed over the last few months by Radical Independents, and it's 2-1 in favour of yes. So you can see the ones who are usually ignored and disenfranchised, they're getting involved. So anyway, the Desi Dutch is gone.
Hector, hello. Have you got anything to maybe highlight? The Hector highlight. That's a better phrase. The Hector highlight in respect to the food banks campaign.
It was just to say, obviously, it's something that's close to, I think, most Celtic fans' hearts because of how the club came about with Brother Walfred and feeding the poor people of the east end of the city. So the fact that history comes round and repeats itself for 125 years later, it's a big thing. So the one very close to Celtic Park is in Herondale Street, and those of you who are old enough will remember Herondale, the old Astro pitch there. If you get into the bottom of Herondale Street towards London Road, you'll get Parkhead Calton Parish Church, and that's the kind of base for the Parkhead Food Bank. Celtic have also donated £50,000 to that food bank to pay for someone to be a full-time coordinator who's doing a fantastic job there. Somebody who actually we're on Twitter with, she's doing a fantastic job. Mary Hill Food Bank. So really, anybody out there, if you're looking to get involved, look up the Trussell Trust or other ones in the Glasgow or wherever you may be around the UK, around Scotland, and get involved. Obviously, it's something close to Celtic.
Okay, I found a few. Lawwell, because apologies, it's this phone. I've got Napoleon Celtic. Lawwell, because we actually pay our loans. Dresden CSC at Etims.net. Lawwell, because he sold Danny Fox for £1.8 million. I still can't believe that.
Yeah, I found that I'm a yes because. Can I read that one out? I'm a yes. This is from Jack Forster, probably not a Celtic fan. I'm a yes because anything that unites the Tories, the Daily Mail, BNP, UKIP, the Orange Georgia, and the SDL cannot be a force for good. Hail to that, brother.
Well, I'd like to know who the Orange Georgia is. Yeah. Is that Georgia from Royston with a suntan?
Certainly not. I was thinking more
for Ultra Orange Georgia. Wait a minute, Dresden CSC. Here's another one there, which could be for Ralph. Give me a second. Where is it? Pure because he has a big desk to hide under and caller recognition on his phone. So God bless Peter. So, just in case people are wondering why we're saying we're punting Lowell, because Ralph, would you like to let people know why we're doing this tonight after your abuse today?
Because people think I'm picking on him. I'm not picking on him. I'm merely pointing out a caricature of the person that we all believe he is. Just in case he's listening.
Get a striker. Well, that's kind of good, because I've got the perfect song. I'd basically, my friends have got a band and they've just brought a new CD. So one of the songs is a tribute to one of our friends. One of our friends has got a favourite saying, which just about sums up the perfect statement for Legia Warsaw. But also now, after we've had this last 10 minutes chat, also sums up basically the last 10 minutes and people complaining. So just before I play it, I'll just say thanks to the guys. Thank you very much, Hector. Thanks very much, Ralph.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And Kate, so we'll have another podcast after the next European game. Touchwood will be in the Champions League officially then. We'll be in the draw and we'll be discussing that. You'll find the podcast as usual on www.etims.net and also up alongside the rest of them on the Spreaker site. If you just look under Etims. And hopefully some of you are following us on Twitter. We are at etimsnet if you want to kind of get upset every now and again with a few off-the-cuff jokes. And Hector will keep you up to date with various other items, especially the Yes campaign, which I am taking no credit for at the moment because I keep getting abuse as it is. So thanks very much for joining, folks. We'll leave you with this song from Folk Music, and this is dedicated to Legia and all the people out there complaining. Thank you and good night.
Well, the party's swinging like the South.